Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Virgo for July 2016. Check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com. See what's new on my blog. If you're interested in learning astrology, in July I will be enrolling for my new Astrology Apprenticeship program. And if you'd like to bust out of the geographic confines of your work, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course, which is also enrolling in July. So what's going on in July? This is a time that many have been waiting for, including myself, because we are finally free of Mars retrograde, although the shadow lasts into August. Mars is direct. Mercury doesn't have any influence in a retrograde shadow or transit, and it's time for action. So I'm going to go into more details, including the succession of major wonderful aspects called trines in July. I'm going to talk about that later and why I think this is a month for action and why it's important to seize the opportunity of this opening. But first I want to talk about something specific for Virgo placements. So the first thing to note is whether or not you have an early, middle, or late degree placement, because I do break down the transits into your sector of the Virgo placement because it makes a difference. The chart of an early degree Virgo placement looks really different than the chart of a later degree placement, and certain aspects that we talk about as hot for July might take a little bit longer to get there for the later placements. So if you have your Virgo placement, if it's for your rising sign and it's 0 to 9 degrees, or if your birthday is between the beginning of the sign, like around August 23rd, and like September 2nd, you're an early degree placement. Middle degree placements have their ascendant from 10 through 19 degrees, birthdays around the 3rd of September through September 12th, and the late degree placements have their ascendant between 20 and 29 degrees and their birthdays between September 13th and the rest of the sign. So early degree placements, some middle degree placements are going to be feeling what I'm about to describe, and you later degree placements are going to have this coming. It's just staggered a little bit, okay? So the timing is a little bit later for you. By weeks, by weeks, not that much further. These are short-term transits. So a major jam up of energy in the 11th house, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, the new moon in the 11th house. So the 11th house is all about the collective. This can be broken down into the greater good, like humanitarian things, community-based things, large organizations. It has to do with teams and groups and friends and social media. It also has to do with anything technologically based. So the internet and all information that is shared on the internet is in this. Also any technology, inventions, anything having to do with advanced technology is in this sector. It's friendships, but it's also acquaintances, and it's gatherings that are in person, and it's also groups online. So this has to do with this energy of group and also the energy of you within the group, like being part of something, your place within the group, what you're working on in the bigger picture. The 11th house is also the house of big dreams, like not the ones you have at night, but the ones that if someone asked you, what is it you really, 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 really would love to do if you had all the resources that you would need to fulfill something, what would you do? That is the 11th house. It rooms your big wishes. So when you have all of this energy there, and specifically the Sun, whenever the Sun makes a transit through your 11th house, the universe is particularly open to your desires at this time. I often will talk about power periods. The new moon is a power period, birthdays are power periods. Another power period is when the Sun moves through your 11th house. So you get wishes when the Sun moves through your 11th house. It's pretty amazing. So think about all of these things in context of yourself in the group, your big wishes, your big goals, what you would love for the world, what you would love if you had all the resources available to you. And some of you, you might join a new group. Some of you may lead a group. This might be about your leadership within the group. The rest of the middle and then the later degree placements are going to have the energy moving here. But the rest of the energy is still very much packed up in the 10th house. And the 10th house has to do with career and work and life purpose. And this is another energy of your place in the world. It's not specifically your place within the group. It's like your place, your purpose. Like, what are you doing here? What are you supposed to be doing here? Things that you worked hard for. You know, this is a time that recognition could come in whenever the 10th house is highlighted in an experience. It's a time for recognition. It's a time for people to see you. It's like a very overt placement. It's not internal. It's not, hidden. It's like out there, you out in the world. What are you doing? Who's seeing it? How are people viewing it? And because the combination of planets are very favorable, the sun, the new moon, Mercury, Venus, it's like a beautiful blessing. And each of these planets has a different personality. They have a different flavor. So it's like a party. They're having a party. The planets are having a party in your house of work and career and life purpose and acknowledgement and recognition. So that's very much the energy of the month of July. Like, it's all about that 10th house. The 10th house also has to do with authority figures. It has to do with father figures. And so anything where it's like you interacting with people of authority, or you as the authority, you as the person that people are coming to, and being recognized for the value that you have, either in your work institution or through whatever, means you're sharing your work. There's a longer term transit at play, and this has to do with Jupiter. And I love talking about Jupiter because I'm a Sag and I just really, really, really understand Jupiter. But I also like talking about Jupiter not because I'm partial to it because it's my ruling planet, but because it expands things. It brings growth. It brings benevolence and opportunities. And you have had Jupiter since last year moving through your sign. And this only happens about 1 year every 12 years. So you really, 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 really want to take advantage of this. You really want to take the opportunity, take the expansion. Many, many, many Virgos this is like a pivotal crossroads year for them. If you have your birthday for the beginning of the sign up until around September 7th, then you've gone through this major crossroads already. If you have your birthday between like September 7th and September 15th, you're going to feel this most immediately, like in the months June, July, August, etc. And it depends, it's staggered depending on when your birthday is in that grouping. But that's when Jupiter is either crossing over your ascendant or crossing over your sun sign, whatever you're watching for. So it's like major crossroads when this happens, and it involves expansion. And sometimes when we grow into something else, we have to release something else. And so sometimes it's a time for goodbyes, and that can be sad and that can be difficult. And sometimes it's a time for breaking into just brand new things that feel awkward, and that can be uncomfortable. But it's the promise of something new. It's the promise of something greater, and you're sitting in it right now. So if your birthday is from September 7th through September 15th, this is most current for you. If you have between 16 and 24 degrees as your rising sign, or also that would be your sun sign, that's the September 7th through the 15th, then this is your crossroads time. For those with the birthdays or the degrees after that time, this crossroads is still coming for you. And that's going to be a little bit later in the year, but it's coming, and maybe you felt it brewing. So Jupiter expanding the first house is this wonderful time where you get to stretch out beyond the limitations of your vocation as yourself. For whatever crazy bizarre reason, we have learned that we are what our work is. That if you're an architect, that's what you are. That's what you do. What do you do? I'm an architect. Well, that's it. Well, most people have way more going on than just what they do, and many people don't even resonate with what their profession is as who they are or what they came to do. And when Jupiter is in this placement, it gives you significant power to expand, just bust out of whatever box you've put yourself in or other people have put you in. So use it, use it, use it. And it's more powerful now because Jupiter has spent most of the year in retrograde, but as of May 9th, it started blazing forward. So now by the time we're in July, we have Mercury direct, we have Mars direct, we have Jupiter blazing forward, and this is really just picking up the pieces of your self-esteem, of your self-development, of your health, working on your physical body, food addictions, any kind of problems that have to have a self-esteem basis or something involving your confidence. Jupiter is there to facilitate this expansion. Some things will just happen without you doing anything, but some things will require work on your part. So if you are open to the synchronistic occurrences, you can ask for the right book, the right practitioner, the right relationship to come in to facilitate your growth out of the box that you've been in. So remember, you haven't had this chance for 12 years, and you're not going to have this same lineup for another 12 years. So really, really maximize it. So these are the things that are specific for the sign of Virgo, and there are lots of exciting things involving the general transits that everyone will feel that are a really major reason to celebrate. So I call this month Sugar and Spice because the way that the energies of Cancer, which are like smooth and sweet, come together with the energies of Leo, which are spicy, it reminds me of a recipe, a favorite recipe that I put together myself called Sexy Peach Pie. I haven't talked about my Sexy Peach Pie in a while. I think it's been years since I've mentioned this. But the month just feels like that to me because there's honey and the peaches in the pie, and that's like the sweet, sultry Cancer energy. And then I put cayenne pepper in it, enough to notice. And that is the Leo, the spice, you know? And so this is the overriding energy of the month. One of the most important things to know about this month for everyone is that this is a time to act, unless of course your intuition says something otherwise, because you always have to have your intuition supersede what general energies might be. But this is the first month since March that we don't have influence from Mercury retrograde. Mercury's retrograde phase long past, and we don't have that to look at until August 10th when the shadow period starts again. And Mars has gone direct as of June 29th. So we are still in the shadow period of Mars retrograde, which means that Mars, which rules your oomph, your zest, your get up and go, how you use your energy, Mars is still a little sleepy. But it's direct nonetheless. So if you have been waiting since March to launch a bunch of things like I have, July is a wonderful time to do that. It's not as clear in some ways as the last 3 weeks of October, the whole month of November, and just the beginning several days of December, because that next window of time for action is when we don't have any personal planet retrograde influence or in shadow period. And that period of time, October, November, December, like once we're about a week into October, the rest of October, November, and the beginning of December, is the first time in the entire year of 2016 that we don't have influence from a personal planet being retrograde. Personal planets are the ones that are closest to us. So specifically, we talk about Mars and Venus and Mercury because those are the ones that go retrograde. So you have a window of time here to act. And I have 3 reasons why I feel like this is a time to act, unless you're intuitively led to do your launches in the fall, in which case that would be fine too. The first is because we're not having to deal with Mercury retrograde. The second is because Mars is sleepy, but Mars is direct. The third is because there are amazing aspects this month. There are just so many glorious aspects. Many of them are trines. Trines are 120-degree angles, which are considered to be the most favorable in astrology as far as smoothness and easiness and flow. So we've got trines between personal planets, which last like a couple of days. And then we have trines between a personal planet and some outer planets, and those last, you know, more than that, like maybe a week or so. And then we still have a carryover from the big dog trine from last month, the last week in June, where Jupiter and Pluto had their final convergence. They've been dancing in and out of this configuration since fall of 2015. So you still have Jupiter and Pluto, these outer planets. When the outer planets move into any kind of convergence, the effects of that connection last for a longer period of time because these planets take longer to move. So they're kind of just like locked in a configuration. And even though the most powerful time of the energy has passed, it's just recently passed and you're still very much feeling it. So trines on all levels. There's a couple of dicey spots this month, one on July 11th and one on July 16th. Both could possibly be jarring aspects with Uranus, so you kind of expect the unexpected around those times, jolting news, jolting information that comes in. But the predominating energy of the month is really smooth, time for action, time to move forward. Another day to pay attention to, or the days around this day, is July 19th, when we have the full moon at 27 degrees of Capricorn. Full moons bring fullness, completion, fruition. Sometimes something comes in that you've been hoping for, or something wonderful happens so that you're emotional in a happy way. But sometimes the emotions are stressful, or stress or drama. So the energy is focused around Capricorn, and Capricorn rules father figures, authority figures, your work, your career, your life purpose. So there's possibility that a lot of smiles and recognition could come in from this fullness, but there's also the possibility of attention being brought to a work issue, or, something that's been pending, that's been stressful. If you have anything with a father figure, with an authority figure, with someone at work, especially an authority figure situation at work, my recommendation is to work out the charge around that situation as much as possible before the full moon. Sometimes full moons bring things that we could not have anticipated, and it's just kind of like, what? Where did that come from? But sometimes it's like the coming to a head of something that's been pending. So if you know that every time you see a certain person at work, there's like a bad energy between you, or that you get irritated or stressed when you see them, you can do energy before the full moon to work it out within yourself. And one of the best tools that I have found to do this, and it works powerfully, I've done this at workshops where people who don't know anything about the book I'm going to recommend did this exercise, and they had amazing effects. It's from a book called The Marriage of Spirit by Leslie Temple Thurston with Brad Laughlin. And these are wonderful people, and this book is amazing, amazing spiritual tool. The exercises in section 2 give you this way to work out a problem that's on your mind, where it's like a mental exercise, but then it's also a spiritual exercise. And you'd be surprised at what you can clear on your own without even interacting with someone. So the more you can do that before these points of fullness, the easier possibly they could be. So at the end of the month, we've got a series of nice aspects with the planet Uranus, bringing creativity and genius and surprises that will likely be positive. The ones on the 11th and the 16th are those kind of unwelcome surprises usually. But when that planet is in a positive aspect, usually it's like something comes from the blue that's pretty cool. So something that is going on, that is pending for us to be discussing again, that I'm just going to bring up now, even though it doesn't actually go direct until August, is Saturn in Sagittarius. Saturn moved into Sagittarius and started, and this was last year, or actually at the end of 2014, this has been ongoing, and then it moved forward, and then it moved backwards, back into Scorpio, and so it's been going on. But since March, Saturn has been retrograde. And when it's in retrograde, it's more working on things in the backdrop. But then once it moves forward, which will happen in August, it's time to start bringing those things back into the forefront. So here are the two things I recommend involving Saturn and Sagittarius. The first is to understand that Saturn in Sag wants to help you bring about your big dreams into reality. Saturn is the taskmaster. Sag is the big thinker. They're not in an easy aspect with each other generally, or in a resonance with each other, but they can be very helpful to each other because they provide this important counterbalance. So whatever big dreams, big goals, destiny, something that just seems maybe even unreachable. Like if someone asked you, what is it that you really would like to do if you had all the resources and the wherewithal to do it? Those kind of big dreams. Saturn wants to help you in the time that it's in Sagittarius to create those big dreams. But what Saturn's going to say you have to do is to work hard and to be disciplined and to get efficient with your energy. That's a higher version of the energy of Capricorn. The lower vibration can be just kind of addicted to work and work for the sake of itself. But the higher vibration of Capricorn, which Saturn rules, which is why it's involved here, is that it wants you to work smarter. And this is a theme that I've been talking about for a while, and I'm going to keep talking about it because this is part of our evolution, if we choose to accept it, where we work smarter instead of harder. We might also work a little harder, but we wind up working smarter. So if you figure out the dream, get clear about it, then make a timeline about what would have to happen in order for you to get there, and then break it down into measurable steps. So if you want to be a filmmaker, right, you would have to first get a good camera, right? Maybe you need some training. Maybe you need to be able to take trips to the places where you want to do filming. Maybe you need to have a screenplay. Maybe you need to, whatever it is. So get the big dream in your mind. Think about the things that you would need for creating that, and then keep breaking those down into what you have to do every day to get to the big dream. And that's what Saturn wants to help you do. So here in July, right before it's about to go direct, be thinking about this so that you can have your plan ready. So these are the general energies of the month for everyone. And if you would like some assistance in using these energies and the ones that are more specific to your chart, which I can't see in the general horoscopes, then check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can see more about my personal coaching. You can also sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get the write-ups that I talk about with more detailed explanations of the aspects and what planets are involved, etc. And definitely check out, if you're interested in learning astrology and you resonate with how I teach, my Astrology Apprenticeship program will be enrolling in July, and my Creating Successful Online Business program will be enrolling in July. And I have lots of self-development programs on my website as well, and my blog. So go to anniehelpsyou.com, and I hope you have a wonderful month. See you next month. Bye.